Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm super excited. Welcome to Diversity in Digital, presented by Artscape Weston and the Tech Effect. And I'm super excited to have Stephanie Small in the building. I've been waiting to have this conversation for a while. Stephanie is a creative operations manager at Taxi. She's the founder of Black Taxi and a champion of diversity and inclusion, along with a lot of different things. So welcome, Stephanie. I'm so excited to speak with you today. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for asking and hope the same for you. Thank you for having me. This is super exciting. I can't wait to dig in.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, let's just start it off. Maybe, tell us a little bit about your career journey and a little bit about yourself.
Oof, my career journey is definitely non-traditional. I have no official advertising training. Like I didn't go to OCAD, I didn't go to Humber, Mohawk, or any of those wonderful colleges or universities that offer an advertising program. I literally just happenstance landed in advertising. Long story short, someone took a chance on me. They saw my CV, they liked what it said, and then they asked for just an informational interview. And we got on the phone. That conversation, which was only planned for 30 minutes, ended up being, I think, the better part of an hour, if not well over an hour. And then she asked me to come in. And from there, it was just waiting for the right role to come up for that she thought I would be a great benefit for. And when that happened, that was 8 years ago and 3 agencies ago. And here I am today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Someone took a chance on you. Talk about how important that is.
Oh, that's so important because I feel like a lot of times we get bogged down with credentials or years of experience. And I am a huge advocate of saying that education doesn't dictate intelligence and time doesn't dictate ambition. I feel that if you're passionate about something and then you're willing to learn about it and really dig into the trade or whatever, the area of discipline, that you could be just as good, if not better, that I've seen a lot of times than people that check all those boxes, so we say. So I mean, I'm not saying take a chance on everyone, but definitely if you see the signs and you get that, I also like to talk about vibe a lot. If you get that vibe from that person that they can be as ambitious and really pull through for you on your referral, then absolutely take that chance.
Right. Okay, and you said you had 3 agencies. So tell us a little bit about some of your experiences, just like what it's like working in the agency, what's it like day to day, just to give some of our audience a view of like what's agency world, what's
Right.
life like.
Yeah. I love advertising because I feel like for me personally, it's been the first industry where I can bring my whole self to work. Like I literally could rock up to work looking just like this. In my previous life, before I got to advertising, that was an absolute no. I feel that every agency is different. At least it's been in my experience. Some range from being very corporate to more where I am at Taxi, where it's very much about culture just as much as it is about the work. They like to make things fun. People will tell you advertising is a fun industry, and it absolutely is. And it's really about like what you make the most of it, and the people. The people are really the heart of a lot of the agencies and the culture there.
Absolutely. And how much of a role do you play in trying to shape the culture, whether that's part of your job responsibilities or not? How important is that to you to be part of that conversation?
I don't know that it's important for me to be a part of that conversation because I definitely don't want to overstep boundaries, but I look for that whenever I'm looking for employment or I'm referring even someone to another agency. I definitely want to know what's going on outside of the work. Like, are y'all having fun? Especially now that, we're not allowed to be within 6 feet of each other. How do you maintain that connection with the people in your office? Are they planning fun events? Are there people checking in and not just your peers? Is senior management or C-suite checking in to make sure that you're adapting and managing your day-to-day well? But I'm also the type of person in my personal life, I love everyone around me to be having a good time. I'm always laughing and smiling no matter what's going on, even if I'm like in the background, I'm like, this whole place is on fire. You know what I mean? So I always try to make sure like whoever I interact with, that I leave them even a little bit better than I found them. Did we share a story? Did we have a joke? Are we laughing, try to hang up the phone and, rush off to our next meeting? I definitely want to make people feel like it's really crappy what we're going through right now. And maybe you're having a crappy day, but that's just the day, or that's just that moment. That doesn't become everything and be everything.
Right. That's so important. That's so important.
Mhm.
Switching over to the recent graduates and the skills and just how like digital is transforming everything now, technology.
Mhm.
What are some of the top skills that you would recommend for somebody trying to get into the advertising agency? They're fresh out of school, on
Mhm.
the technical side and also on the transferable side.
Right. The technical side, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not that up to like what the programs that the kids are using. I look to TikTok for a lot of like what these babies are doing and the content that they're creating, and I look to definitely the generation coming up behind us because y'all have so much more access to information than I did. Like, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'll tell you that like the internet was not a thing when I was coming up. Like, I was using dial-up still. Like, you can't be on the phone the same time you're trying to be on the internet. Y'all probably are like, what? You have no idea what I'm talking about. Google it. But I'm that old, okay? But as far as the other skills, like the stuff that they can't teach you in school, is definitely adaptability, a willingness to learn, and to be open. Because, like I said, from agency to agency, from client to client, they're not going to be the same. So, for example, there'll be clients that want you to work within a specific confine. They know what they want. They ask you for very prescriptive things. And then there'll be other clients that are like, listen, this is a general brief. Go forth and prosper, and let's see what you come back with. So those three things that, you may not be taught in school, adaptability, openness, those things you really got to keep top of mind. And also, this industry changes just as quickly as the tech world.
Right.
Like, we're trying to keep pace, so you got to be on top of it as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned how fast things are changing, and I think like the industry changes so fast, but the whole like recruitment process and the ability to find and vet talent is also changing as well. So
Absolutely.
You mentioned TikTok. I saw an article or a post where a candidate took to TikTok and showcased her portfolio in the background, and
I love it.
yeah, I love that idea.
I love that.
And actually, the number, she said like maybe in 30 days she got 2 calls, and then when she posted that, she got 10 calls the next day.
See?
And okay, so let's talk about experience.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest questions or challenges is that I need experience to get a job, but I need a job to get experience.
Right.
So how do you recommend people get that experience? How do they build their portfolio?
Definitely, networking is a big part of getting your foot in the door. Yes, you need to know the skills of the trade, but you absolutely need to know people. And this industry is so small. Like, I'm a huge advocate, and I say this every time that I have a conversation. I have to stop telling people to slide into my LinkedIn DMs, because then for the days afterwards, my LinkedIn is a mess. But I'm happy to plug you with Kareem or Angela Baines at OCAD, who can help you facilitate opportunities, get your foot in the door, look at your book, review your book, give you feedback on your book. Those things are so important. And especially because, like you said, it's like an entry level position, but they're asking for 2 years. Like, it doesn't make sense. So that's one of the things we revamped in the Black Taxi internship program. But I definitely say, don't take anything, but definitely take what is offered and look through it. So, for example, if you're being offered a position for an internship, what does it entail? Am I getting paid for this internship? When am I getting paid? What clients do I get to work on? How much work am I going to get to do? Like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Your time is an immeasurable commodity, okay? You can always make more money. You cannot make more time. So make sure that you ask all the right questions to make the most educated decision you can make in that moment.
Yeah, that's such a key right there, to ask a lot of questions. And another thing that you said too, which is in regards to networking, is that sometimes it's not necessarily the person you're reaching out to that's going to help you, but they can also refer you or connect you in different ways. So kind of following that path to where the opportunity is. How important is the mentorship piece? I really want to talk about mentorship, and how important is it with equipping students for success in the future, and also especially from a diversity standpoint.
I think it's so important for mentorship. I definitely want to be one of those people that, as I climb the ladder and move on in my career, that I'm reaching back, especially when it comes to diversity, and more specifically our Black community, because there's not a lot of us, if any, that we see in C-suite roles, especially in Canada. And you need to know how to navigate this industry. It is a predominantly hetero white industry, right? And so if I can be your mentor and I can say to you, listen, these are the challenges that I experienced. This is where I may have messed up, so don't do this. If I can help you and kind of help shape your professional path as well as you personally and help you mitigate damage down the road or manage things, I absolutely am happy to do that. And I know there are a lot of us that are working in the industry, BIPOC, that are happy to do that as well, because we've been, there's people that have had longevity in this industry well beyond my years that can help you form the career and the longevity that you may want in this industry.
That's amazing. And what are some of your experiences? Did you have a mentor? You said someone took a chance on you. Do you have do you have a mentor now?
I've never had a mentor before, but I do now. 8 years in the game. But I do now, and it's Rob Gannett, who's our CEO of Taxi Toronto. And this just like recently happened. I literally just sent him an email one day and was like, hey, how do you feel about just like meeting with me every couple weeks just to talk like career development, Black Taxi? And he was happy to do that. He said that he'd never been a mentor before. So he was like, I don't know how this is going to work. And I was like, well, great, because I've never been a mentee before. So we go work this out together. So far, it's been phenomenal because, that man, if you know his history, I mean, he's an icon in this industry, started Taxi with other partners. And he's like one of my number one supporters when it comes to my career development in Black Taxi. So for me, it was a natural decision.
Right.
I'm thinking now, do I wish I had a mentor before? I don't think I ever was really in the opportunity in my career to have a mentor, at least find someone that I thought that could be a mentor. And I definitely wasn't on the trajectory that I am now. I very much before this was someone that just like came in, tried to do diversity things, got shut down and was like, all right, I'll just put my head down and do the work and clock out at 5:30, nobody cares. So I feel like, this whole experience being at Taxi and launching Black Taxi has really shaped that mentorship piece for me and really made me realize how important a mentorship is, especially for BIPOC folks.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And just to elaborate on that in a career setting, because in a career setting, you're going to have your manager, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to manage your day-to-day. But talk about how it's still important to have, what would a mentor do that a manager wouldn't, in a sense?
Right. I say this all the time that like people that are your peers, we're in the trenches, so to speak, right? Like we're in there, we're grinding it out, we're working the long hours, we're doing the work. Whereas management is focused on the high level, like the overhead stuff. So there may be things that they're not privy to, information they're not privy to, experiences and how you're feeling about certain things. So I feel like you can lean on people who are your direct reports to a certain extent. But I also feel like it's so important for BIPOC folks to have a secondary mentor. If you can find it in the same person, great. But if not, a secondary mentor that, like I said, can teach them the tips and the trades and how to navigate this industry, because it is very different for us, right? Like the experiences are very different. The way that we navigate and, sometimes speak up for ourselves or not speak up for ourselves in meetings is very different. We need to be coached on that. And so that mentorship piece is very, very important. If you can find like a Black person or a BIPOC person who is also your direct report and or management, great. But if not, don't be afraid to have more than one mentor. And also, it's not necessary. I know I keep stressing that your mentor should be BIPOC, but I know there maybe not be a BIPOC person who's your manager or someone you report to, find an ally, someone that you can align yourself with that says, listen, I don't have lived experience, but I'll stand alongside you shoulder to shoulder and help you navigate this world the same way.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. So let's talk about a little bit more about diversity in the workplace and how it, from a business standpoint, how it benefits businesses and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can Google. There's so much information on the interwebs that shows you that you can make money while still promoting diversity. I think it's important for people to also realize and recognize that when you're promoting diversity, it's not always about external hires. It's not saying like, oh, we need to bring in all these BIPOC people from outside. What about the people that are already within your office, within your agency? Do they not deserve to get promoted? Do they not deserve career coaching? Do they not deserve timely reviews so that they can shape, their career development? But that's the saying goes, like glass houses, right? So and that's what we did at Taxi. We started within first and said, okay, we need to revamp some things, because we're not doing the greatest and we recognize we're not doing the greatest. So I mean, like, we're not the be all and end all, but definitely I would say start within, look around, see what's going on, change some things, and then maybe even, collaborate and do outside hires as well, but definitely start in-house first.
Interesting. Okay, and what are some steps that agencies could take to attract and retain Black talent?
Well, I know a lot of people aren't a fan about like putting it out there, but I mean, like, I love to say all the time, closed mouths don't get fed. If I don't know that your agency is committed to amplifying my voice and supporting me as an employee, then why would I work there? Like, it can't just be an internal initiative and everybody that works there knows about it, but nobody outside of your walls knows about it. It seems very counterproductive to me. So if that's what you're doing, like, publicly commit to do that. Let people know, hey, we recognize that there's a deficiency, a lack, whatever you want to call it, in what we're doing. So we're committed to change. Come on, work with us, collaborate with us, and come work here. Like, just make it known that you recognize that this industry is not what it should be. It's not reflective of the cities that we work in, and that you're actively trying to make change. Personally, I'd rather go work somewhere that acknowledges that and is doing things behind the scenes as well as outwardly than just willy-nilly throwing out my application to somewhere where I'm like, I don't even know if these people want me here. I don't even know if they care, more importantly.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Anything else that that could be done?
Talk to your BIPOC people. I hate to see agencies that have like an all-white leadership and they're like, championing diversity, this is what we're doing. And then you talk to the people, like I said, in the trenches or middle management. And I do, this industry is the size of a pin needle. And I'm like, hey, I'm seeing this statement. They're like, girl, that's fuck. They don't care about us. So like, y'all, talk to them, engage them. Our lived experiences are more valuable than education, the reading material on Google at times. Like, I live in this body 24/7. I guarantee you that I'm going to have a lot more feedback than you can find on Google. So talk to your folks, talk to your people, and ask them, what do you guys need? What do you want? And how can we help?
Yeah, that's such a key right there. And that's something else I wanted to talk about, which is sharing your story. Right. So how important is it, for us to share our stories of what we've experienced and what we've gone through in our careers, in terms of lack of diversity, lack of diverse leadership, for that story to kind of spark interest from the future generation. So how important is that? Because I know last year and over the last few years, there's been a lot more conversations, and it's like, oh, that happened to you too. Oh, that happened to you. Like, and now it's like it gets realer. So how important is it for us to share as well? Not necessarily to wait for them to ask, but also to share our story with the community as well.
Right. I think it also aligns, like you're saying, like that point that you touched on. It's networking, right? I mean, your stories are so important. Our voices are so important. And I really believe in the power of storytelling. I mean, whatever reason, tell your story, because you don't know who else is living the same thing and thinks that they're alone. You don't know if there's someone who's been through that and can guide you through the transition of coming out better on the other side. You just don't know what could come of it. And I'm a huge believer that it could only be positive things. You never know. It could be someone that's looking in HR, that's looking for someone that has your skill set, that's like, you know what, I want to support this person. Let me reach out and see if they're looking for another opportunity. You never know. And I mean, that ties back into behind the scenes, like diverse storytelling. If there's more of us in the room, behind the cameras, on the account team making decisions saying, listen, that Pepsi thing is not cute,
Mm-hmm.
our stories would be a lot more vast. Our stories would be amplified. Our stories we wouldn't have to dig to find our stories. So never stop talking about it. Your story is important. Like I said, your voice is important. We need to know, because we're having, and this is the reason also why I started POCAM on LinkedIn, was because I was having these separate conversations with 25 different people. And I said, let's just all get together and just talk about the stories one time. So we're not, telling our stories 25 separate times. And now it's blossoming into this beautiful organization and a membership of, I think, like 1,100 people on the LinkedIn group. And there's people in there just telling their stories, asking for advice, asking people to review their CV, plugging people for references, saying, hey, we're looking, if you want to put my name down, put my name down. That in itself is storytelling. And so, never stop talking about what's going on with you, because it is important and you never know who is listening.
Wow, that's so powerful. And it's, I think we get in this analysis paralysis and try to figure things out on our own and
right.
try to be like, okay, what am I going to do next? And one of the lessons that I've been implementing is just talk to somebody, right? Just reach out to somebody when you're in that kind of jam, that mental funk, and see like what ideas they may have or who they can connect you with, and that like take that action relieves the pressure. And I believe that's really what you're saying, which is share your story in some way
right.
out there, and good things will come. Let's talk about allyship, right? And holding companies accountable and finding allies. What are some of your ideas and thoughts around that?
I keep telling people that allyship is not a noun. It's a verb. It's an action word. It's not something that you decide one day that you are and then boom, racism solved. That's not the way this works.
Right.
The same way that consciously every day I think about, and the actions that I do are an ally to the queer community, is the same way that you as an ally to the BIPOC community. It's every day. It's in your speak. It's in the conversations that you have. It's in the work that you contribute to. And I keep hearing this thing where people are saying, I forget the exact terminology, but they're basically saying like they're tired of hearing about diversity. It's this specific term that we use, and I remember it. And whenever I hear that come up, I'm like, oh, that must be nice to have that option, to be tired talking about this. Allies don't have that terminology or that way of thinking in their vernacular, because they understand that, as far as we've come, there's still so much more further for us to go. And I had to say to someone the other day, like, if you are already tired and you don't want to do certain things in order to make someone else feel comfortable or in order to have conversations, then you need to take the word allyship out of your repertoire and do not use it in conjunction with your own name, because you are not. It's not something that you have the privilege of being tired from. It's every day, it's all day until the situation or the issue is resolved. Now, performative allyship is something that, we've all been dealing with. And I mean, as the BIPOC community, we've been dealing with it since the dawn of time. I've seen a lot of influx in it in the last couple of years. I love to call people out on it. Because I keep saying, if you're going to be public about your support, I want to see the receipts. I want to see what you're doing. Stop having conversations you are loud and proud on Instagram and signing calls for equity letters, but I don't see nothing happening since then. Where is it? Where are the receipts? The same way I go to the grocery store and I ask for something, I get a receipt, right? Same thing. Same thing.
Good. Cool. No, and then how do we hold them accountable? So in that follow-up, like what are the, what are some of the questions we ask? What are some of the stances we take, or any advice on that side?
The stances piece is hard. Well, let me answer your first question first. How do we keep them accountable? Taxi, we're working on producing a report to show you exactly, because we said July of last year that we were going to do this, and we knew what the numbers were then. So we're working on that. The same way that people want to put out diversity reports when they claim to say that they're going to be working towards this second coming of diversity. Okay, great. So you made that commitment almost a year ago now. So where are you at today?
Right.
The same way that you were public with your acceptance and your commitment, you decide how you're going to let me know that you've been holding yourself to that standard. I'm not going to dictate that for you, but I still want to see it, whether it's a report, whether it's testimonials, whether it's a panel. I don't care how you do it. I just want to see it in some type of tangible form. Now, holding people to task, the stance part is hard because, I go hard. So for me, I'd be like, well, we're not working with you anymore. But that doesn't make business sense. We can't always do that, right? As much as we want to say we would like you to be held to your commitment. So I feel like that piece is hard. I feel like there are certain instances where you can absolutely make that decision and say, we'll know that we work with you in any capacity. But I feel like that's a difficult one to answer, for sure. It definitely is situational. And I feel like it has a lot to do with how much money you have tied up in that decision. You got to be sustainable at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the last question, because we're getting a little bit close to the time. You started when did you start Black Taxi? About last year? How's it running?
Yeah, end of July last year. Mm-hmm.
So maybe 3-4 years from now, right? Where do you see it? What do you want it to become within taxi and as an example for the ad industry?
Within taxi, I would love for it to blossom into its own department and essentially its own agency. What that looks like specifically, still working out the details. But 3-4 years from now, 100%. We can circle back. You can call me and ask me for the receipt on this. I'm wholeheartedly working towards it being its own fully functional, independent agency under, the taxi umbrella or WPP, because I feel like I know it's needed. You see a lot of these Black-owned, Black-run agencies in the States, and I just always wonder, why do we not have something of that caliber in Canada, specifically Toronto, which is the most multicultural city in the country. And I mean on the scale of taxi and these other agencies that we see that, the names are so well known, you don't even have to Google them. I want Black Taxi to be on that radar. I want Kareem to be like, oh, I remember 3-4 years ago, I talked to her, she was still doing all these things. Yeah, I want it to be a staple in the advertising industry for sure. I want it to be like a beacon, for other agencies. I love, advertising is so competitive. I want another agency to look at it and be like, oh no, we can do that better. Okay, good.
Right.
Okay, great. That's what I want. I'm not precious about this space. It's come one, come all. If you can do it better, let's see. Let's go.
So before we go, if you want to let everybody know where they could find you, how they can get in touch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. It's the best way to connect with me. Just search Stephanie Small. I work at Taxi, and I'm the only Stephanie Small there. So Paula, get in my messages. I'm happy to help out.
Okay, great. And before you go, if you could shout out the Tech Effect and our partners at Artscape Weston as well.
Of course. Thank you to the Tech Effect for having me. Shout out to Artscape Weston and everyone in the Upstart program.
Amazing. So thank you again so much for your knowledge, your wisdom, and your time today. I look forward to stay connected with you and seeing all the work that you do. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.